use the KPIs achieved in our project, and Marika will have the final word for the closing of the event. So in case you're having any troubles or difficulties, or you would need to shift, I don't know, just reach me out in private and I will guide you, okay?
Okay.
Thank you all.
Okay, so we're ready to start. We are just admitting the last participants and then we will be ready.
Sorry, I see that from TOOTEKO we have some problems with the mic. We cannot hear you. Maybe from the phone will be better if you connect the audio, just the audio.
Okay, I guess we are almost all in, so we can start the conference. So good morning and welcome everybody, and thanks for attending this event. For those who doesn't know, my name is Varika Matsiboem. I'm the Innovation Strategy Director at X23, and I'm the coordinator at the EU UNESCO4ALL TOUR project. So today we are all gathered together to celebrate the conclusion of the project and of course to show the results that we achieved so far. The project started in March 2019 with the purpose of designing and delivering an innovative tourism product by boosting the cooperation and the creative and cultural industries to increase the competitiveness of the EU tourism industry and to diversify the offer. I have to say that this was one of the most emotional projects I ever coordinated for different reasons. The first one being our target audience. In fact, we designed a tourism package tailored to people with visual disabilities to open them the access to the stunning EU cultural heritage as never before. And we did it by the disruptive technology of one of the consortium partners, TOOTEKO SRL. We will listen later on from their words what this technology is about and how it has already changed the life of visually impaired people and the blind so far. But I have to say that it was also emotional because we were overwhelmed by the COVID-19 just in the middle of our activities, in the core of that. And of course, this was pretty much difficult to overcome. In fact, in March 2020, we went through a total lockdown here in Italy. We had tough times, we lost friends and families member, and pretty much all of us all around Europe and at a global level. So this project is the result of the resilience, the commitment, the determination to go beyond barriers and to find a way out. So today we are proudly showing you what we achieved during these 24 months. The event is structured in different sessions. The first one is around accessibility, tourism and cultural heritage. The second one is more on inclusive tourism and assistive technology. And the final ones are more within the emotional side of testimonials from our travelers. So now I'm happy to give the floor to our EU project officer, Alan Bella, who drove us, I have to say, in these stormy times till today. Alan, the floor is yours. Alan, you are muted.
Voila. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
So thank you, Marika. Very emotional introduction to this, what promises to be a very interesting conference. Unfortunately, Marika, as I told you, I can't stay length because there are other projects also within the context of finalizing matters. I have another conference to attend, but I certainly wanted to make it a point to be present at least part of this conference, because this project has been very, very interesting, extremely interesting, and it is one of those projects which have been emotional for me also, but not only for you. There is a proverb in English which says that all good things come to an end. I would sincerely like you as a group to defy this, since I consider this moment now as the beginning and not the end. The beginning because I would like you to showcase the results which you have achieved. And today I want you to be proud of the work that you have implemented in the past 24 months of European funding. As you rightly said, it has not been easy. We have faced a lot of challenges together, and things at certain instances were quite difficult too. But today, at this point in time, nearly at the end of this 24th month, I'm interested also in better understanding how you intend, especially giving continuity to the project, to illustrate how the current actions, the ones you have prepared meticulously, such as your business plan, for instance, with all the details you had included, the pilot trips and their follow-ups. We've had to face challenges together. We discussed matters. We changed the pilot trips from European to domestic because of this health context, which of course did not permit matters to be done the way they were planned. But of course, I want to now see the results of these pilot tests. I want to see, of course, I'm very interested to understand the feedback you have received. I'm very interested to understand your own perceptions, how these pilot trips could eventually grow and become European trips also. I would like to know a bit better also about this TOOTEKO ring and its potential additional distribution in museums. We have had the ring being distributed in pilots also. They were tried in the pilot tests also. And I now would like to know your own feedback of how this ring could be utilized a bit more extensively across the European cultural context. I'd like to know your synergies with other projects. And I note, in fact, your very good attempt to include other projects within today's program too. Well, that's a very good start. And of course, it's a start, as I said, this is the beginning and not the end, to additional synergies, to grow further, to collaborate further with different stakeholders and different projects. I'd like to know the experiences at the 4 UNESCO heritage sites, the links you have had with them, their perceptions of how this whole context of the project, of the TOOTEKO ring, etc., could indeed be used to improve the accessibility context for the disabled, but also their own cultural and tourism experience, which are, of course, extremely important. And I'd also like to know how all other marketing activities which you have been involved in, well, how these can help facilitate the visibility for the EU UNESCO4ALL network. Of course, beyond the co-financing period, because this is the most important thing now. We've reached the end of the 24 months. It is about time now that we start thinking together, you particularly as a group, to continue the project, to continue what you have achieved so far. It would be a real pity, a big pity, in fact, if you had to stop this, because the good work would be lost. And last but not least, I would like you to share with me your own vision of how you intend exploiting the award you just received at the prestigious EU Industry Days. Because for those of you who are still not aware, this project was selected as the best project in the category Shaping Europe's Digital Future in the EU Industry Days. that's a very prestigious award, because it shows that together we have been working very well. It shows that the results achieved have been very much appreciated within the context of a prestigious award as the EU Industry Days. And it shows, last but not least, of course, that you have been working well. You have been working towards achieving the goals which you have decided to implement within the framework of the project. And in this, of course, allow me to thank Marika and the rest of the team from X23, besides, of course, all the other partners involved in the project, for your collaboration. It has not been an easy situation, of course, but it has been definitely a real pleasure for me to act as your contact point in Brussels as project advisor at EASME. The project has grown with time. It did grow indeed. It faced many difficulties and challenges, not the least due to COVID, as Marika was also saying before. But I think that together we arrived where we are today. That means giving the project an impetus for the project to pass from strength to strength. And my final words, because I don't want to go beyond, I want this only as an introduction, because today is a celebration of your work. So it's very important that you take the merit out of it for all the achievements you have done here. But my final word is that I sincerely hope that as a consortium, you will continue striving to strengthen the project network with additional members too, to increase the visibility of the project, to attract as many additional stakeholders to the notion which you have developed so far, so that it will grow even further. Thank you once again, Marika, for the invitation, and I'm happy to listen to some initial presentations, but as I said, unfortunately, I can't stay throughout the whole event. But once again, thank you for your good work, and thank you for the invitation.
Thank you very much, Alan, for your kind words and for the representation of what we have done also together during these months. You will be receiving all the information later on with the presentation and the slides so that you can have all the information of our results achieved in place, but of course they will be also included in the final reporting. So I will pass the floor to Anna for introducing the next session.
Yes, thank you so much, Marika. I wanted to introduce our partners who are going to have a few minutes to introduce themselves to our audience. And the first in line is our TOOTEKO partner and the representative, Gilda Lombardi. Gilda, can you try your mic, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Lovely.
And I see Fabio also.
Yes.
Okay.
Hello.
The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. So Gilda Lombardi, I'm Fabio Dagnano. I will present today. I'm founder and partner of TOOTEKO. TOOTEKO has been in charge of the replicas of the UNESCO sites and of the technological aspects of the tactile exploration for the blind. As TOOTEKO, I'm representing Gilda, as I said, and also Serena Ruffato, which is here with us today. I'm also an associate professor in tactile surfaces at the Centre for Fine Prints Research at the University of West of England in Bristol, and the partnership also included the CFPR, which collaborated in this project. That's all.
Perfect, thank you. Thanks a lot for the introduction. Now I would like to give a word to our partner from Malta, Five Senses. Nadia, can you try your mic, please?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Nadia. I represent Five Senses, a company in Malta that is responsible for promoting the sensual experience of tourism. We are in the project, we were responsible for the part of the research, as well as for the travels, which unfortunately were so complicated to actually implement. However, as I have already discussed with Marika and as already mentioned by Ellen, for us in Malta, this is not just the end of a project, but I see it as a beginning, because what the project has promoted and discovered for us has a lot of resonance. It also has a lot of implications where it comes to the experiential experiences of tourism, and we are very happy to explore ways how the project can be further exploited, and also involving Malta as a pilot in the experimentation that will come out from the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. Now I would like to give a word to our partner, Thyplological Museum, their team leader, Zelika Bosner.
Hello to everybody. I have been working as a director of Thyplological Museum for 19 years. First 7 years of my work in the museum, I was working as a curator. I am educated as a master in education and rehabilitation sciences. I'm very involved in practical and scientific research about visually impaired people related to museum. My colleague, Ilana Tlutovic.
Okay, so I have a master's degree in art history, ethnology, museum studies. I'm also involved in the project from the beginning. I was working as a curator in the Thyplological Museum. There are also two more members of our team, Nina Sivec and Željka Sušić. Nina Sivec is working as a documentarist and curator for 18 years in the museum. Also, Željka Sušić, she works as a museum pedagogist. All of us in the Thyplological Museums, we are very involved in reducing barriers for visually impaired people. So this project was very interesting for us as a way of involving new technology for the blind and for the visually impaired people. So we were very happy to be involved in this kind of project, especially because it is related to UNESCO4ALL Places, which we consider very important as a part of cultural heritage in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for everyone to know, our colleagues from Thyplological Museum, they were responsible for the pilot trips and also the training, elaboration, and also the exhibition path. And you will see it all in our documentary film as well, and see there and the other partners' work. And the next partner in line, we have Rakursy Art Gallery and their director, Rumjana Joneva, who were also the part of the exhibition path and implemented a trip in Bulgary. Rumjana, the floor is yours.
Everybody, I prepared a small PowerPoint presentation to present our team. I would like to just a moment, please. I'm sorry, just a moment.
You have to share the screen, Rumjana.
Can you see?
No,
can you see now?
We see the.
Okay, you see the presentation?
No, we see the. It's your iPad, but the slides no.
No. Okay, I will leave it. Can you hear me? So, excuse me, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, perfect. We can hear you.
Okay. Our gallery is founded in 2004 by me and my partner Rusica Čuševa in Sofia. The gallery is for modern and contemporary art with very busy exhibition program, participation in art fairs, in festivals, in different national and international projects. Since 2015, we work for accessibility to art for people with visual impairments. The UNESCO4ALL project is a part of these gallery's activities. From the very beginning, the project was a challenge to us because it covered many activities, not only in the field of art, but also new one for us, such as tourism, new technologies, working with people from different industries, different countries, governmental organizations, and all this in a very intense pace, plus the pandemic situation last year. Our team was trained for work with people with visual impairments from Sofia University, and all members contributed to the celebration of the pilot exhibition. And some of them main activities are as follows: Mila Starejinska for elaboration of the fact sheets and participation of the workshop. Rusica Čuševa contributed to the design of the tourism product and the exhibition part. And she maintained a permanent contact with the stakeholders. Anna Tudorova had a crucial role for attracting stakeholders for tourism industry, preparing and presenting the training course and in translation. Me, as a team leader, was in constant contact with the coordinator and the team, and I contributed with the creation of the marketing plan, the concept note, the meetings. Ljubomira Čuševa is our youngest member of the team. She contributed in the outlining of good practices, promotion of the dissemination of the project activities, and in technical assistance at any level. Our impression is that the exhibition was accepted very positive from the visually impaired people, although they regret not making the travels, international travels. Later, they will share their experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rumiana. And this was our partner from Bulgaria. Now I have a pleasure to present Commerce Granada, our Spanish partner, who also had a pilot exhibition, and they will tell you more. I'm happy to give a word to Isabel Contreras.
Thank you, Anastasia. Hello, good morning to all the colleagues connected today. In fact, I represent the Chamber of Commerce of Granada. We are a public law corporation, and of course, there is no need to explain what a Chamber of Commerce do, because all of you have similar structures in your region. In fact, we have the particularity and the great luck to be placed in Granada, a beautiful city in the south of Spain, which is well known internationally by our heritage, the Alhambra Palace and Gardens. As a Chamber of Commerce representing the local companies, we are proud of our heritage, and we are convinced that the potential of our heritage is not yet fully exploited in order to create the sustainable, accessible, and quality tourism in our region that we want to develop. So this is why we work in initiatives, in European initiatives that can valorize the role of UNESCO site as key elements for this tourism that we want to achieve. And this is why we are so proud to have collaborated with this EU UNESCO4ALL project that addresses to the particular target group of people with visual disabilities is an excellent example of the kind of initiatives that we want our own companies to work on, to promote, in order to achieve this accessible, sustainable, and high quality tourism that we want to develop in our region, as I said. In fact, we brought to the project the representation of Granada, of the UNESCO heritage of the Alhambra, but also the view of the tourism and culture local industry toward the kind of initiatives that this project represents. And in fact, we have also collaborated with the local community of visually impaired people as the target group of our of the project initiatives. We have actively collaborated with the Fundación 11, which will be represented today also in this conference with the testimonial of one of the participants in the pilot trips. And that's all. We are very grateful for having the opportunity of participating in this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Isabel. Now I'm giving the word to our communication manager, European Museum Academy, and I give the word to the Henrik Sipsanen to present their museum.
Or they want.
Henrik, can you hear us?
Let the priority to Henrik. He's my director.
I can hear you. What do you expect from me?
Just a few words about your organization.
Okay, thank you. My name is Henrik Sipsanen. I'm director of the European Museum Academy. We are a volunteer foundation based in the Netherlands, but with approximately 70 colleagues around Europe who are working in the academics or working in senior management roles in museums. And our main work is research, further education of museum colleagues, and studies in museology. And what we are most well known for is our work with different museum awards in Europe. All kinds of awards in industrial history, social history, museum education, and our two new awards, I should mention especially here, maybe an art museum award, and of course the award for master studies in university. So that is what we are doing, and you are most welcome to follow our work on our website and Twitter, etc., etc.
Thanks a lot for the presentation. Thank you. And now this is the time we are jumping to the session 1. And actually, this first session will be made and was created around the accessibility topic, which was actually one of the key topics of our training program. And what we wanted to say with it, that it is actually accessible for all, and we tried to make our training like this. And the first one who will have the floor will be our colleagues from the Thyplological Museum of Zagreb. The floor is yours, please.
Yeah. Just a second. Today I will present some knowledge and the experience of the Thyplological Museum in the field of adjustment and accessibility for the visually impaired in a museum environment. At the beginning, I would mention that museums play an active role as democratic institutions in the public sector. The new museology or museology of the 21st century understands museum as efficient, dynamic, and participatory institution, achieving those through communication and education of users. In this process, a museum should be designed and expand its services according to needs of museum public. Today, museums are starting to work on the development of new content and new purpose for its usual activities. It is no longer enough to be a space for objects in the service of elitist publics. Museums, therefore, become part of the community. They engage with by using elements of sustainability and social inclusion. There is an increasing need for market-capable museums which are able to recognize and adequately adapt their own plan of work to rapid changes in society, such as globalization, informatization, and modernization, hyper-modernization. Museum workers need to have good social skills, listen to the community, recognize the needs of environment. In order for the museum to be accessible, its space, content, and communication need to be adapted to individual groups of visitors. As for adjustment, we do not educate the users, but those who deal with them, museum employees and, for example, director of museum institutions. To reach global accessibility, it is important for museum to collaborate with various institutions, organizations and associations that deal with underrepresented and vulnerable groups in the society. Firstly, museum staff needs to be educated to understand who are underrepresented groups and what their needs, abilities, and capabilities are. Some museums are increasingly involved in programs that emphasize the problems of individual groups, but there is generally not systematic work on know-how with underrepresented and vulnerable groups in the museum environment. That is why it is extremely important to participate in specially organized trainings with the included practical part, workshops, courses, where it is possible to get detailed practical instructions on how to deal with the particular vulnerable groups. If we want to make underrepresented groups represented in museums, it is not enough to announce that the museum is open to them or that they are welcome. There are three main ways how to adjust the heritage: adjustment of space, adjustment of content, and adjustment of communication in the museum. In the next part of the presentation, I will explain each of them together with practical examples. Adjustment of space contains three aspects. First, making the museum entrance accessible, which can be done through several tasks. Constructing entrance ramp or elevator, making door knobs lower and door much wider, putting tactile stripes on the floor, and also making the tactile plan of the whole museum of exhibition area. Second, adjusting space inside the museum, which means that space needs to be arranged in line, straightforward, for easier orientation and mobility. The distance of pedestal from the wall should be 1,2 meter. Museum objects need to be in the reach area between 90 and 140 centimeters. Tactile stripes need to have the width of 5 centimeters, with the distance from the pedestal of 30 centimeters under the right angle. On the picture, we can see tactile stripes in the space of the Thyplological Museum. Third, setting museum lights and contrast, which means that the contrast between the background and the exhibition should be between 70 and 100%. The light intensity should be at least 100 lux without reflection. Photographs need to be set at 120 to 170 centimeters. When we talk about the adjustment of content, we talk about tactile graphics, verbal descriptions, braille publications, etc. Tactile graphics are used widely for presenting information like diagrams, maps, and art. They are printed in low or high relief and containing reduced information. On the slide, we can see example of interpreting modern art with tactile picture. Image has different balding and oblong elements used for interpreting the depth of the original painting. Verbal descriptions are usually used to complement tactile pictures. Verbal descriptions are used to adjust the content or visual or audio material for the needs of visually impaired people. Also, we should have on our mind that a lot of blind people cannot read Braille script. So verbal descriptions are sometimes the only source of information for them. There is a whole research area dedicated to the field of verbal descriptions. Some of our colleagues in the Thyplological Museum deal with this problem. Next important thing is adjustment of the museum publications. Publications on black print can be adjusted for partially sighted by using larger font size 16 to 18 pixel, using clear font styles like Helvetica Universe or Times New Roman. Also, text alignment needs to be on the left side of the margin. Braille publication is adjusted for the blind. It is printed on the special hard paper, having the size of dots, 0.5 to 1 centimeter. It is important to say that Braille publication needs 2 times more space for the same amount of information the publication with the black print has. This slide talks a little more about museum labels and descriptions that are adjusted for visually impaired. It is important to say that Braille texts on the labels enable the blind person to move on their own through the museum. All labels need to have the same position in front of the pedestal. In the case that museum labels are on the wall, their height needs to be 137 centimeters, and they need to be under the angle of 45 degrees. To conclude, if the legend is installed lower, the angle of settings up the legend is larger. On the slide, you can see an example of placing the museum label in the correct perspective of height to blind people. Today, museums are using online pages to share information about their collections. Those web pages also need to be adjusted to the needs of the blind and visually impaired, possibility to change font size and color. Design needs to be responsive for all devices, which means that we couldn't specify the size of the layout in HTML code. We need to have alt text for describing images, etc. A third big category is related to just communication and information. It refers to contact with the real person. It can be done through the museum tour guide. For visually impaired people, we have special guidance through the museum space. Guiding is done verbally, precise by defining correct position of objects. Museum guide take the hand of the blind person and puts on the top of the museum object. For example, if we talk about sculpture, the person touches the sculpture from up to down. For the museum staff to be prepared to talk with blind people, they need first to know how to approach to the blind person. So they ask the person if they need assistance, if they do need support. They contact the back of their hand with the back of theirs, which you can see on these pictures. After this, a blind person catches just above the elbow of the arm, which means that communication is set up. To recap, museums are social places where different people gather, and therefore they need to be inclusive and safe for all, accessible. Museums should promote democracy, active participation, and awareness raising. To reach this goal, they need to listen community, recognize the needs and the environment, especially isolated and marginalized groups. Museums and heritage institutions should become places of meeting, socializing, creating, spreading tolerance, equality, and a collaborative atmosphere. They should transform the social life of the community and encourage cultural institutions to long-term policy of socially sensitized cultural institutions. So, thank you for attention.
Thanks a lot, Zelika, for this presentation. Thank you. It was very informative and very important to know, because actually, and talking to all our guests today, the Thyplological Museum is our best practice in accessibility among the other museums, and their work shows exactly what is still the gap in the accessibility among all the European museums. And saying so, we are stepping to our next part of the session, our roundtable, and I will give the word to René Kapovin from European Museum Academy to present this part of our event.
Thank you, Anastasia. I'm René Capovin. I work for a museum in Italy, Museum of Industry and Labor, and I'm part of the network of European Museum Academy presented by Henrik some minutes ago. As EMA, we are partner of the project, and we thought to provide our contribution to this final event by creating a short panel of experts. Here you will meet 4 people that had never been involved in the previous activities of the project. Henrik already participated to some conference at the beginning of the project. Elia Vlachou, she's a colleague from Greece, and me, we already work in the communication, but to underline the strong involvement of European Museum Academy in this project, we thought to invite other people, new experts, and we have 2 members of our board, Dirk Houtgraaf, he's a Dutch, and Massimo Negri, he's Italian. They are author of this book, Developing Exhibition, There is a Method in This Madness, just published. After we have Virgil Nitulescu from Romania. He's manager at the National Museum in Bucharest. And we have, last but not least, Daniel Wagner, director of the Musée de Deville, Luxembourg. The main point is, what could we learn from this paradigm, from this museum from Zagreb? This presentation was a sort of lesson, in fact. So, dear colleagues, try to extract some sense for the general world of museums. Please, Massimo, perhaps we can begin from you.
Do we have some mic troubles, perhaps? I see you're muted. Try to unmute yourself, because right now I see that your mic is muted.
We start with another colleague.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, sorry. Yes, first of all, thank you for the invitation. And it is very appropriate that René mentioned this book that we just published, because it is a book of methodology about how to develop an exhibition project. And the presentation that I saw before from Zagreb fits very well with the kind of tools that beyond the book, which is in general terms, but needs, of course, the integration with an integration, a constant integration with additional packages, say, supplying tools when we have emerging targets, like, for instance, the involvement of this segment, an important segment of the audience, visually impaired, blind and visually impaired visitors. For me, was very useful, interesting. I'm reacting also, evoking some problems, if you don't mind. For instance, the first is a bit, if you want, bureaucratic, administrative, but it counts. And it is that when, not only in Italy, but there is a level of which consists in the general regulations by the states or the regional authorities about disabilities. So what you have to do to fulfill the obligations to help disabled people in general. So for the architectural barriers, as well, for instance, for blind people. Recently, I had an experience like this, exactly in a project in the museum where René is working also as a director, as the project of a new museum, that we were contacted by the Italian Institute for Blind people, which, as we are involved in the building of the new museum, which reminded us all the necessary obligation, and which are general for any public space. And the current project, UNESCO4ALL, go straight to a point, which is the gap between the general regulation and the specificities of certain environments. For instance, as far as my field is concerned, the museum environment. So the general rules are okay, but they don't, they're not comprehensive enough to help to solve, or at least to make life easier in an environment like the museum environment. So that's why projects like this are very much needed. Also because there is one aspect, which is the skills of museum people, like in the case of Zagreb, who work for a museum specifically addressed to this problem, and or museums that in general wants to offer a more welcoming experience to their visitors. This is not something that can be defined, in my view, only by issuing general regulations, law rules, and so on, but it has a lot to do with the experiments on the field. So that the museum becomes what we could define a learning organization, an organization which learns from exchange of ideas as well as from the daily activity. It has to be considered also the fact that the 21st century, among the other definitions, has been defined the century of the not only of the millennials, the youngest ones, but also probably the millennium of the centennials. The cycle of life, luckily, is becoming longer and longer. And this means that, for instance, that the growing importance of adult education and of lifelong learning. Eric is our expert of lifelong learning in our foundation, EMA. But it means also that, for instance, the question of visually impaired people will become more and more important. Perhaps, luckily, for instance, in some countries, in many countries, the population of blind people is decreasing has been decreasing in the last decades. But of course, the number of potential visitors with visual problems, difficulties is growing. And as the museum experience, you like it or not, remains based a lot on the visual side, it is crucial that museums and museum experts and museum workers say, if they become experts, but they at least have a framework of reference, so they are able to orientate themselves to face these challenges. It is the balance between being a generalist and a specialist, which is the main requirement of our times in all fields, including the cultural field, including the tourist field, including the museum field. I find also, and then I stop, very interesting the fact that in this project there is a focus on cultural tourism, and I mean, museums have a lot to learn from cultural destinations, cultural touristic destinations, being themselves frequently, not always frequently, a cultural tourist destination, but I mean, for instance, open air destinations, cultural destinations. This goes also together with the fact that there is a growing inclination towards a concept of museums as, say, expanded institutions, which goes beyond the walls and try to establish permanent, not only institutional connection, but links in the experience of the public between what is inside and what is outside. There is still a lot to do in this area, and I mean, there is a proliferation of tools for aiding visits to any kind of venues for touristic and learning reasons. But what we need, I think, is to go a little bit deeper in the sense that the different destination, the categories of the individual categories of destinations have their own specificity and have their own language of communication, their own linguistics. So my reaction in listening and reading.
Massimo,
Yes.
we have to hear also the other colleagues.
And I finished. I finished. Okay, thank you.
Yes, the language. But it was one of the topic presented by Angelica, the adjustment of space, the customized information. Dirk, do you want to continue?
Sorry, before we're stepping in, I see that we have the question from our participants. Someone raised their hand. Can you please unmute yourself?
Who?
Hello, I raised my hand because I wanted to say something, but I would like to give the word to, to Dirk if he wants to say something before me. René, can I speak? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and hello to all of you. As René said, I'm actually not the acting director, but the former director of the two museums of the city of Luxembourg, and especially of an art museum that is called Villa Vauban. Vauban is written V-A-U-B-A-N, and the Villa Vauban has a tradition of organizing exhibitions that are called Museums for All, with their permanent collection, because it is, I think you agree, all of you, that doing temporary exhibitions that are, well, let's say, for which you have to realize a lot of artifacts and adaptations for people with special needs is of course necessary, but it's easier to work with your own collection so that you can reuse the artifacts and the communication tools that you have realized. So if you want, you can have a look at the website of the Villa Vauban and get some ideas from that about these exhibitions, where we, for example, used or made how do you call it, models in relief of paintings. And I realize now, after the very good presentation, and I thank you for that, of Zelika Bosnar, that how important the oral well, the fact is that the visitors are also accompanied by vocal information about the model that they have in front of them. So I would like to stress that. What I wanted to say also is that we have used in Luxembourg a label that signalizes to people with impairments that they are welcome to the museum and that they will find special tools and communication, also adaptations for their visit. And this label is called You're Welcome, E-U-R-E, welcome. And this is maybe an idea that could be taken away from this conference, is that if there were an European label of that sort that would signal to people with impairments that yes, they will find now an exhibition or a museum that is equipped to welcome them and to give them a full experience, that this would help, especially in the tourist sector. A last thing I wanted to say is that the European Museum Academy has just launched an award, an art museum award, which you might be interested in. And it addresses museums that work with art in an innovative, pioneering and creative way, and respond to current social issues that are a major challenge to our contemporary society. And of course, inclusion and accessibility are very important in that context. So this, you can apply for this award until the 31st of March. And I give you the internet address, which is www.artmuseumaward.eu, and you might be interested to apply for this award. So this is everything I wanted to say. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Just a few words about Mrs. Wagner comment. We actually, during the UNESCO4ALL tour, developed a label, as you were suggesting, which was supposed to be assigned to the tourism service providers so that they can be, let's say, they can show their willingness to accept in their premises people with visual impairment specifically. And of course, this is something that can be transferred to museums as well, since the museums are a very key part of our implementation action. So the idea to have a label gathering together the concept of accessibility from cultural heritage sites and cultural institutions on one side and tourism providers on the other is something that we have already developed, and it will be one of the major next future step in the implementation of the second phase of this project. And as regard, Alan, this is specifically also to you, the award, this is something that we discussed together with Emma at the beginning of the project to have to launch some kind of award related to accessibility specifically. This could be also a legacy of the project. I am now listening of this new award that can be, of course, can include the concept of the UNESCO4ALL tour. So this is something really amazing, and we are looking forward to further collaboration in the second phase of the project.
Yes, I agree, Marika. We have to talk about that. Dirk, it was your time. Now it is your time.
Well, given the fact that we are running out of time, I just want to mention one thing is that the need for very practical tools in developing exhibitions in the museum asks for, like Celia presented, those kind of tools. When we were making all these exhibitions and you're in the midst of a process, you need these very practical tools and guidelines beside you, because otherwise you forget. We made quite some mistakes. We had to correct them, and I would have loved to have these guidelines with me. But that's the only thing I want to add to this meeting. Publish it.
Dear Jill, from your experience as manager.
Well, thank you very much, René. I think that the problem, which is not only for the museums in Romania, as I've seen already, is the fact that we are lacking the expertise coming outside the museum. So we cannot afford the luxury of hiring specialists in things like like working with persons who are visually impaired. So we need to take this expertise from outside the museum. And we did this, for instance, and this is not only the case of my museum, but we did this in several museums in Romania, but only, I have to stress this, only in the very big, important museums. Because the rest of us, the rest of museums, those which are of, let's say, medium size, they cannot afford this to ask for an exterior expertise. The problem is that our exhibitions are, most of them, in probably 99%, are not prepared to be accessible for people visually impaired. And all we've done until now are only experiments. Of course, some of the exhibitions, for instance, usually in arts, they have a special project, educational project connected with the accessibility offered to people visually impaired, but these are exceptions. As also it's an exception, for instance, the fact that in my museum is functioning cinema hall, It's a cinema hall devoted, a theater devoted to art movies, and we are screening there from time to time movies which are, let's say, translated, of course, in Romanian, for persons who are visually impaired. These are only exceptions in my country, and I think that we have probably no more than 20 movies, Romanian-made movies, which were adapted in this way in order to be seen by people with this visual problem. But first of all, I wanted to stress this. First of all, we, the curators, are those who need this special training in order to offer our knowledge to others and to organize exhibitions or, generally speaking, events adapted to these people. And we, in this case, for instance, what was introduced here from by our colleagues in Zagreb was things like this are very useful. And I think that the utility of this project is the fact that for most of us, it opens a way which was never thought about before the last few years. Thank you.
Thank you, Virgil. Anastasia, we finished our...
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, all the speakers of our round table. Now, I think we have some minutes to reply to the question posted in the chat, and perhaps our colleagues from the Thyplological Museum can reply to it. So the question was from Nadia Teuma. In a view of the pandemic and future impact that COVID-19 will have on travel and anything tactile, has the museum thought of alternative practices that maybe need to be implemented?
Thank you, Anastasia. So the answer to the question, if we consider COVID-19 and the issues, we would say that since the first thing is tactile for the blind people, to experience the tactile, we can use the gloves or we can use disinfection to clean the hands, to have a tactile experience. But in a case, if we want to have some other experience, we can use the verbal descriptions of certain artworks or objects. We can have in the museum space, for example, near-field communication and NFC stickers, which could use to transport the sound to the person which is listening without any touch, which is the issue in the case of the COVID. Also, we can have more data on our web pages related to certain exhibitions, virtual data, which is used to describe something. So this would be the answer from us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And also, just a second regarding the comment earlier. Thyplological Museum is actually organizing this kind of educations, two-day education for museum workers. So actually, we already do some kind of things to, for example, we were organizing a workshop in which 30 people from Croatia, different curators from museums, they were coming and learned how to adapt those content for the blind people. So we do kind of this stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Ileana. Hi, I'm Carolina from X23, and I have the pleasure to introduce you now the session 2 of our event about inclusive tourism, assistive technology, and creative industries. We invite our colleague Fabio Dagnano, co-founder of TOOTEKO, to introduce to you our secret, the disruptive technology applied to our project. The floor is yours, Fabio.
Thank you. Can you confirm you can hear me?
Yes, really well.
Yes.
Perfect. I will share the screen. And now, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, perfect.
So again, thank you. I'm Fabio Agnano, founder and partner of TOOTEKO and associate professor in tactile surfaces at the Center for Fine Prints Research in the University of West of England. And in the last years, I had the opportunity to work with visually impaired to let them experience architecture and art. In this specific sector, touch conveys shape, color, and material differences. Being an architect, I know how we suffer for the hegemony of visual, and sight is such a powerful and fast sense, tends to swallow all the other senses, putting them in the background. So working with the blind, we have the possibility to emphasize the other senses like touch or hearing. And what we do as TOOTEKO is to enhance the contribution of more than one perception, just beside what the eyes can see. And so you can see here early prototype of our ring that made it possible to detect some sensors that are embedded in the replicas of works of art. In this project, in the UNESCO4ALL project, the replicas were made to allow the visually impaired to get an idea of the form of some work of art or architectures. So in this picture, you can see how you can have a relationship between the things that you are touching in your and your personal device. But let's see a little bit more about it, how it is made, and what the logic behind. This is an old picture for us now because it's a crowded museums, but here you can see how we can't be sure that really we can see art. And as you all know, I guess that in the world there are a lot of visually impaired and people that are really completely blind. So in our job, what we hear often is this question: why a blind person should be interested in visual arts? And normally our short answer is why not? Why a blind person should be excluded from the world of visual art? I guess that you also all know that there are regulations behind it. So you can't treat someone unfavorably just because of its disability. And nevertheless, is still a topic that is quite hard to tackle. And what we're trying to do with TOOTEKO is to transform these works of art into speaking models, so you can reduce barriers and give independent experience for the visually impaired. And we do it in a simple way. So we put together two senses that are normally considered as separated. You can listen with audio guides or you can touch, but normally you don't have the combination of both things. And mostly you don't have the combination of a relevant audio that is just exactly what you are touching. So the smart wearable that you saw before was an early prototype, but now we developed this technology, and we now are able to have fast and reliable interaction between the object and the person that is touching the object. You see here Deborah Tamentozzi. You will hear from her in a few minutes, I guess. And this was one of our first projects that I will show you in a few minutes, but technically it is quite easy. We have an NFC sensor, which is cheap, low maintenance, a ring, a device that is able to detect this sensor and to transfer the information to a smart device. Just any kind of smartphone can do it. And we can apply the sensors directly on original artworks because they don't damage the original artwork. So in museums where it's possible to touch, you just can apply the sensors on the original pieces, and this is the most economical way to do it. Otherwise, you can produce some tactile maps, specific tactile maps with both the tactile contents, that could be braille or any kind of relief, and the technological and infrastructure, the digital sensors that can give you an audio comment of what you are touching. Otherwise, we can also 3D print and scan replicas and reduce the size and enlarge the size. We can do whatever you want with the replicas. And what we did in this specific project was to try to put together different technologies, the different aspects of these kind of works. So you have in the same panels 2.5D replicas where you have kind of tactile maps, but also 3D reproduction of some specific aspects of the 4 websites. I will just show you quickly, shortly, some of the projects that we did before this one, and that led to our experience in the UNESCO4ALL. So this one is the first big experience that we have done. That was back in 2017, more or less 5 years ago we started. And in this case, again, Deborah, which is our precious and really beloved collaborator, we worked together since more than 5 years. She's touching some tactile replicas, and in that case the idea was to let the heads of the Augustus family talk and tell your stories. So this kind of interaction with the public is not only suitable for the blind, could be interesting for all. It's giving a voice to someone that is not able to tell his own story, and in a natural way. In this other project, we tried really to push forward the idea of for all, because the whole exhibit was not only intended as a support for blind people or visually impaired, but this kind of technology was extended to any visitor. So in some ways they had exactly the same experience. We had dark rooms or places where you were encouraged to touch and to experience how it feels to touch an object that normally you are only able to perceive. And also we made some translations between the two-dimensional forms and the 3D replicas. In that case, it wasn't a ring, but it was a wristband. Again, this was another project where we learned how to use photogrammetry and 3D scanning to reproduce some objects that then it was possible to touch these kind of objects also by kids, by any kind of audience, which is again the idea of the for all experience. This one is something close to the project that we did with UNESCO4ALL, because for the first time we experienced this idea of having the same panel that is both for someone who can read it, who can see the colors, but it's also for someone who can touch it. So Again, the for all means that the same infrastructure, the same panel is suitable for both kind of audience, and we don't have to separate the two experiences necessarily. So here you can see you have the tactile aspects. Well, you can't see it because it's transparent, it's on the top of the collar, but if you touch it, you can perceive it. And other objects like these 3D models here, you can really touch them, and in the same time you can experience it. So back to our project. My specific role has been to find innovative solution to reproduce this three-dimensional model in small series, because we had to do it more than in one and only copy, but in more copies, and also to try to have a coherence between the significance of the works, of the architecture, of the 4 UNESCO sites, and the tactile translation for the blind. We produced all the, oh sorry, this is all the projects that it's too late to talk about. So we produce all the tactile replicas of the project, and we did it through all the possible means: photogrammetry, digital 3D modeling, digital sculpting, whatever we could do. And then after having prepared all the models, we turn them into real object with different printing techniques, ranging from CNC to resin printing to the combination of both. And then we made some molds in order to be able to replicate them. You will see a video later on these aspects. And one of the main challenges of this project has been to obtain precise replicas, but also at a reasonable price and of a considerable size. And in addition, we wanted to give something that was pleasant to touch and easy to maintain. So the experience had to be a nice experience, because sometimes with 3D printed replicas, you have just to touch plastic, which is not giving the same charm of the real object, of the real experience. So with CNC, we could do some things. With resin, we could do other things, but this kind of precision, it's normally quite expensive. So we tried to combine them in order to make large scale models with one technique, and to use another technique for the finer details. So this path was aiming to just have the best of both worlds, even in terms of challenging things. They have completely different aspects and materials, and so we had, as I said, to cast them and to reproduce them. But the result is something that is confirmed that path was the right one. So you can see here some of the other details of this project, which are really fine and precise, even if one of the other main challenges was to being in the lockdown, because in the middle of the production, lockdown came, and we had limited access to resources. We have to face it, and the activities have been therefore intensified in a shorter period than what we planned and we expected. But at the end, the main effort was to try to guarantee the same quality of production, notwithstanding all the restrictions that we had. And well, I'm personally really proud of the result of this project, and I'm really, I mean, I'm proud absolutely, but even more because it was a challenging moment and a difficult time to work with all the partners. So once again and once more, I want to thank you, first of all, my partners in TOOTEKO, Serena Ruffato and Gilda Lombardi that are here this morning, and then Morana Metozzi. We were working together we have been working together for many years, and that's always precious source of information. And also the partners here, the CFPR in Bristol, which were absolutely resilient, as now you say often, to be adaptable and to do everything despite the difficult moment. So this is more or less it. I've been quite fast because I know that we are running out of time. Again, frankly, an experience that I'm proud of, and I'm open to questions, if any.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Fabio. And we definitely are happy to have selected the TOOTEKO company for this project. Actually, it was designed specifically on your technology because this was the purpose of the call to, let's say, to boost the synergies between private organization in the field of technology and public organization or private organization in the field of cultural heritage and tourism. And we think that we achieved a very good job, and you did a great job actually in these challenging times. And we try to support as coordinator as much as we can, and we did it to arrive till the end of the project with such an amazing and stunning results. I think that if you have a few questions related to TOOTEKO technology, you can type them in the chat, but as time is running out, as Fabio was mentioning, I would step in and jump into the next session, which is the most emotional one. And I'm really happy and honored to introduce the next speakers. This is the moment when we can listen to the direct experience of our travelers, how they cope with the COVID-19 challenging times, and what a travel experience meant to them as we speak. So first in line is Deborah Tramentozzi. Fabio mentioned her as one of their most precious colleagues and collaborators. She's passionate about life and the arts. She's a tech talk speaker, and just for the record, if you Google her stunning speech about the deposition of Caravaggio painting, you will be amazed. Deborah is committed to challenge the limits where it is possible through resilience, determination, innovation, and the ability of life. I'm quoting what she said, the only limit existing are those we give ourselves. Passion, strength, and the ability of taking the best out of one's condition are the fundamental ingredients to see art in all its forms. So Deborah, the floor is yours. Enjoy.
Thanks, Marika, for your introduction. It is a great joy for me to be here with you this afternoon to share an important step toward something that is very close to my heart, to the point of dedicating my personal and professional life to it, the beauty of art accessible to all. I have been blind since birth due to a medical error which, unfortunately, I have never been able to prove. This mistake should have upset my life, but in fact, it marked a turning point in the perspective of my existence. Despite my visual disability, in fact, I have always wanted to discover everything around me, just like other children. I cultivated their same passions, even if they involved sight. My backbone, my pillar, was my mother, who, although very young and without any knowledge of the facts, had understood before me what my dreams, my attitudes, and my desires were. She was supported by professional figures, experts in visual impairment, who guided her so that she could equip me with all the necessary means to bring out my potential and to send it in any direction I wanted. It was my mother who taught me that I had to work harder than others to get to their level. In this way, she instilled in me the strength to pursue my passions, although most people believed that they were reserved only for the sighted. In fact, I like running with other children, practicing sports with them, and therefore, with the help of willing and valid teacher, I was able to achieve this goal, also winning prizes together with the school team. My mother had strongly wanted me to attend ordinary schools together with the Italian Union of the Blind in my province to learn how to relate to both those who share my disability and sighted people. This is how I began to define my traits of my personality, which did not include being afraid of dreaming of something that, according to everyone, was not possible for a visually impaired person. I therefore began not to listen to those around me when they told me that I should not or I could not study in classical high school or attend the Faculty of Classical Literature because Greek was too difficult a frontier to overcome. During my studies, which, contrary to most, proved to be rewarding and fruitful, I also cultivated another desire that would become the main color of the picture of my life in a completely unexpected way. In fact, art history was included in my school program, and as I tackled the topics, I felt that something I had never experienced was moving inside me, an enthusiasm and joy that were different from any other. I remembered that these feelings were similar to the moments when I went on trips organized by the school or my blind union. Once again, I became aware that I had to go in that direction thanks to my mother's foresight. In fact, it was she who made me take part in each of these episodes of leisure, culture, and aggregation, since she realized that I, in respect to a sighted person who can look at a postcard, I had to experience a place to really see it and to fully enjoy its beauties. Thanks to her intuition, which made her go against my father's will to protect me, in addition to the love for our artistic treasures, I began to develop the desire to also get to know other European cities, to experience the gems of art that I was studying on manuals. They were thrilling me more and more and began to form my personal taste in regards to the various styles and artistic movements which they belonged to. Thanks to scholarships or prizes for blind reading, I began to satisfy this desire so much that I felt privileged to be able to appreciate these wonders at a school age. I believed that growing up, I would limit myself to organizing trips for my personal pleasure and that I would share my thirst for knowledge with my friends. That I still could not imagine was that this passion of mine would give me the best part of me and of my existence. In fact, I love art in all its form, and since I was a child, I have also cultivated a love for singing and music, which was the only thing that could calm me down during the nights I spent crying at the top of the lungs because I didn't hear people speaking around me. In this case, it was my father who found a solution by switching on the radio, thus making me stop immediately. I began to study singing with one of the most famous teachers in the world, a great tenor who, above all, was a great man. He represented everything I could wish for art, competence, professionalism, and humanity. Those years under his influence were wonderful, learning elegance in every aspect of me until in 2008, an incurable disease suddenly took him away from me. With him died the most beautiful part of me, the one that could express itself freely, always understood and never judged. I lived in the deepest darkness and silence for years, so much so that I too got sick, until something happened that gave me back the will to speak and to let people know who I really was. In 2010, I went to visit the Vatican museums, and there I was enchanted by the current accessibility manager who had created a project where the visually impaired could touch the reproduce the works of art, smell them, admire the fabric, or listen to the suggested music from the context. When I listened to the commentary of the marble group of Athena and Marsyas, I smiled and my life changed. From that moment on, she wanted me at her side to test the accessibility of the paths she proposed and the reproduction of the works involved. In front of one of them, the deposition of Caravaggio, I burst into tears, something that had not happened for 3 years. And from then on, I began my work toward finding that part of me that I believed had stopped breathing. I also started studying singing again, and in the meantime, the experience at the Vatican museums continued, giving me more and more emotional pleasure, so much so that I believed that I no longer lacked anything. Once again, despite my beliefs, my life surprised me because I was able to get in touch with a technology that allowed me to take another step towards accessibility to the beauty of art for everyone. TOOTEKO, in fact, has conceived a device which, by exploiting touch and hearing, enables the blind person to enjoy the artistic beauties independently, exploiting its main resources. Behind this apparent simplicity, a great truth is hidden. The creator of this device did not accept the idea of surrendering to those who believed that the beauty of art was forbidden to the blind. And it is only when someone does not accept the idea of giving up that real discoveries are made. Since 2015, I have had the privilege of collaborating with TOOTEKO as a consultant and typhologist, thus helping in breaking down the barriers and limits that we set ourselves based on ideas that we often support without verifying their reliability. Thanks to this collaboration, based on their intuition that to improve it is necessary to ask those who live with disabilities, I have experienced many of the unforgettable moments of my life. I started traveling, thus combining my personal pleasure with the momentum to make all those works which I had studied or heard about. I met high-profile people who shared my dreams, who found a way to make them come true. During this journey, where I was able to contribute to expressing what I had in my heart that could be useful to improve my condition together with that of many other people, I was able to experience sensation, and I will be forever grateful. Every morning for me, it was a joy to wake up with a smile, which portrayed my will to spend that day making someone's life better. That made me so happy was that my passion had become a profession that gave me the opportunity to express myself freely and to be listened to with interest until on March the 11th, the COVID-19 pandemic prevented culture from being enjoyed in the same way we had been used to until that moment. In a second, everything changed, and even my life, unfortunately, suffered a setback because many things have changed in regards to the way I was used to use and enjoy them. It was no longer normal to be able to wake up and decided to go to a museum to look at my favorite works of art or to inspect new and figures out how to make them accessible to visually impaired people. Initially, I experienced the month of quarantine as an opportunity to further train myself at home, working in a smart way, as they say today. With time passing, however, I have increasingly realized that to be completely myself, it is necessary that things return to flow in a very similar way to normal. In these months of forced closure and restriction, I have confirmed what I already knew. Art, travel, the possibility of admiring that is beautiful around us represent the renewed part of me, the one that has struggled to re-emerge and to be reborn after so much pain. I hope that soon it can go back to normal, naturally, with the proper rules in accordance to the situation, but in order to bring culture back to the standards it deserves. Staying here and talking to you rekindles in me the hope that this can come about and begin to exist again. I therefore hope that this project is only the first of a long series of goals with whatever wider horizons and better ways that can achieve what all artists have in mind when they invent their work of art, to express their own emotional genius, not only to a particular category of people, but to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you very much, Deborah. There was a round of applause for you. I'm really, really happy. This is a very emotional testimonial, I can say enough. So I need to pass the floor to Rumiana for introducing her guest. Thank you once again, Deborah.
I present to you Mrs. Rumiana Dimitrova from our group, with whom we were in close cooperation during the preparation and installation of the models of the pilot exhibition. I give the floor to Rumiana Dimitrova. Rumiana, are you there? Because Rumiana?
I think we can maybe for now, I see that I think she's not connected for now. Maybe we can pass the floor to our, oh no, she's here. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. First of all, I would like to congratulate you for realization of the project and thank you for the opportunity to express the impressions of the participation of the group, Bulgarian group. The site that was designated for the Bulgarian group to visit was the Alhambra Palace, Spain, which we couldn't reach because of the situation with COVID. Even in Bulgaria, unfortunately, we were not able to visit the real monastery because of the winter snow, the closed road and repairing work of the road. So I can't give an assessment of this part. The host of the exhibition of the 4 sites set in the project on the Bulgarian side was Rakursy Gallery. The organizers were friendly, responsive, and ready to assist for everything from welcoming, helping with the tour of the gallery, and showing some details which we couldn't find presented in the audio description. For example, the icon of Sveti Ivan Rilski, some details like the bird, the clothes, and so on. The audio description was recorded in Bulgarian, made accessible with clear instructions for navigation, and be able to cover the text ourselves. So in parallel, we could use more senses, hearing the history of this object, touching the models, and reading in Braille. The Braille description was situated before every object in English grade 2. Here, there was no search for real monastery. In this place, the information of Alhambra Palace was repeated. Here, as a recommendation, my suggestion is giving opportunity of tourists to use headphones during the visit so that everyone can feel the full impact of this challenge. I know that pandemic situation is the reason, but everyone can bring a personal Bluetooth headphones. This is an option that be considered for the future initiatives, and also blind people can move around the gallery and there is no commotion. As I said about the organization and the implementation of this project, the team did a good job. The ladies came to the center where I work in advance, introduced us the idea of the project. They invited some of us to see the preparation of the hall for this exhibition. And during the exhibition, everything was available. All of us were impressed by the idea, satisfied with the design and audio description. We felt like European citizens with access to art. We hope other galleries and museums will follow this idea. That's it all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Rumiana. It was really nice to hear your feedback, and thank you again for your
It's a pleasure.
words. Thanks a lot for your contribution. Thank you. We would like also to give a word to our Spanish traveler, Leticia Rodriguez, who visited Alhambra Palace in Spain. Leticia, could you try your mic, please?
Hello.
Hi. Great.
Good afternoon. Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit of our experience with this project in Granada. First of all, thank you for the invitation, and especially to the Cámara de Comercio for including the ONCE in this project and inviting me here today. We will have liked to visit all the monuments that you are talking about, but at least we could finally go to the Alhambra. And we hope that very soon we can travel to other countries and visit those beautiful monuments too. As a person with visual disability and worker in the social services area in ONCE, the Spanish organization for blind people that you might know already, we are really happy that projects as important as this one are focusing on creating accessible tourism. We had such a good experience in the Alhambra with a group of 6 people with visual disabilities, where we could touch a replica of the Palacio de los Leones while we were listening to the audio description of it. Thanks to the TOOTEKO ring. And then we had an awesome visit through all the monuments with a specialized guide. All the blind people who came with us were really grateful for the opportunity of being part of this project. And we hope that we can collaborate in future projects similar to this one, because we love to enjoy our culture and monuments such as anyone else. I hope that the sanitary situation improves soon and we can continue visiting the different monuments and replicas of, and so you are invited here to come to Granada and visit this, as I hope that sooner than later. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Leticia. It was nice to hear the experience you had with the Spanish travelers. And we are stepping to our next session. I give the word to my colleague, Carolina.
Well, it has been a beautiful and emotional journey until here, and we are so grateful for everyone who made this possible. How about check out the behind the scenes of the UNESCO4ALL project? Let's discover now the making of our project. Anastasia will share the screen and we will check out now the video. I can hear you. I don't know if
you have some troubles in hearing the video.
Yeah. Yes.
Let me check really quick. And now?
You have to.
I hear it. Just a second. Can you launch it perhaps, because I hear it?
No, but you have to.
From YouTube.
Yeah, normally you have to share a specific tab, and only with that specific tab you share the audio.
So to copy.
Yeah.
No. Just a second, I'm trying from my computer.
Director at X23, coordinator at the UNESCO4ALL TOUR project. This is a close-up of my eyes. I can see everything around me. But for people with visual impairment or blind, it's different. They can see by touching things. But you cannot touch work of art, can you? Yet for blind people, this means they cannot access the stunning European cultural heritage. The UNESCO4ALL Tour changed the game. Using NFC sensors, 3D printing, digital storytelling, we turn work of art into talking objects everyone, from kids to blind people, can actually touch, changing the paradigm as never before. Now I can see everything. Now I can touch everything. UNESCO4ALL Tour, designed for all, thanks to TOOTEKO technology.
Le mie piume sembrano vere. Ho la coda aperta a ventaglio. Sto facendo la ruota. E grazie a questi effetti di colore, le mie piume sembrano vere.
In questo plastico, a sinistra, trovi la punta di un campanile. Se non ti spaventa la fatica, immagina di salire sulla cima.
Okay, so This is the story of what we achieved in the last 24 months. We were supposed to have this project duration in 18 months, but due to the COVID situation, we needed a bit of expansion of time. I also invited to close this conference 2 siblings projects from the same call. I don't know if I have the representative from Greenways project and MAPE project. If you are there, can you just introduce yourself, please?
Yes, hello. Yes. I hope you can listen to me. I'm Mercedes Muñoz. I'm the director of the European Greenways Association. It's a pleasure to be with you. And I would like to share my screen with you. So in order you can see better our project and all the connection we have with your own project. So Greenways Heritage was a previous project, COSME project, but let's introduce before a little bit about IGWA. IGWA is the European Greenways Association that was created more than 20 years ago in Walloon region in Belgium. We have more than 50 members now from 16 countries, and the Secretariat and Executive Chief is in Madrid now, where I'm speaking with you. So what are Greenways, first of all? Greenways, there is a more accurate definition, but for a brief overview, these are non-motorized, safe, accessible, and very user-friendly roads for all kinds of people, including people with special needs. So disused railway lines and canal to path are very suitable for the development of the greenways. And they are so for any kind of people, for any kind of age. Greenways are very, very good for outdoor activities, for hiking and for cycling safely. And what is very important, they are very an essential source for incomes for local and for regional economies. They are increasing and enlarging all around Europe, and they have still a very, very big potential because, for example, due to the railways, there is only about 20% of the full potential for the conversion of these abandoned, not used anymore railways. And what we do many activities, as you mentioned before. We organize awards from 2003. Every 2 years, we have an observatory and we promote best practices through European projects and through our awards. And we cooperate with European institutions. And one of the most recent projects has been a COSME project, also related to UNESCO sites, Greenways Heritage. And so we promote, in this case, Greenways, more UNESCO sites as common destination. This project, we participated, IGWA has been the coordinator, I have been the coordinator of the project. We participated 8 partners from 5 countries. And our kickoff meeting was also held in a museum, in the Museum of the Human Evolution in Burgos, because it is connected with the UNESCO site Atapuerca on the screen and on the right, on the left, and also connected with a greenway. And in fact, this Atapuerca site was discovered thanks to the works to create a railway. So many connections. And what we do, the objective was make this connection because it was around Greenways and many different assets like a UNESCO site, but very, very few connections, lack of knowledge, lack of common promotion. So the idea was to promote Greenways and UNESCO, Greenways through the UNESCO visitors, and UNESCO through Greenways visitors. So in a way that both UNESCO and Greenways can be a benefit and added value. One of the actions, main action, was to improve how to improve the information for tourism. And in this way, we created at Milan University one of the partners of the project created a tourism GIS, Geographical Information System combining 15 greenways, more UNESCO sites, maps and storytelling. And so we have shared some of the UNESCO sites. In this case, we are looking, yes, we can see Bristol Bath, Greenwich connected with the Bath. But we have also information from the city of Aquileia, you mentioned before, with all these work you have done in the UNESCO4ALL. But there is a very, very nice and long greenway, La Ciclovia Alpe Adria, and so in this case, both can benefit in this Greenwich Heritage Geographical Information System. You can see on the website all the information about the Aquileia and all the assets around the Ciclovia Alpe Adria in Italy, but we have from other countries. We also promoted innovative action like images from 360 degrees and also augmented reality related to Greenwich to enhance the experience of the visitor and to attract more visitors. Also, we compilate a series of best practices on the Greenwich connected or UNESCO site using new technologies. And so, for example, we had some experiences in audio guide, UNESCO bike tour and promenade in Luxembourg. One of the participants mentioned before about museums in Luxembourg and the action for digital guides. And also interpretation in some museums that can be useful for both, for Greenwich visitors and for UNESCO visitors. And of course, we promoted and we create several Greenwich heritage tourism packages, all thanks to one of the partners and tourism operator. These packages are on the market, are being selling, but also we propose, because in many times in Greenwich, people are going, traveling independent. So we propose other tourism products for independent visitors, for bike visitors, promoting both cultural and natural assets and Greenwich. And we also created a special award in our Greenwich. Every 2 years, we organize an European Greenwich Award. We created a special award, Greenwich Heritage, to promote innovation and new ways of informing visitors. And the winner was an application for Greenwich and Natura 2000 in Spain, in the 4 Vías Verdes. But Greenwich Heritage is not the only project we have been promoting Greenwich and cultural. We have other projects related specifically with accessibility, like Greenwich4ALL, a previous COSME project, in this case coordinated by the Spanish Railway Foundation. And the idea or the objective was to go further, to create accessible tourism trips, all the chain of the accessibility together, not only the Greenwich, but all the accommodation, visitor centers, etc., all together to enjoy the experience and to permit common trips for all kinds of visitors all together. And so this is the website. You can see further information. Some brochures are also related with impaired accessible people, but not only people with different kind of disabilities. And also the conference information and so on. We have promoted these best practices thanks to our European Greenwich Award. One of them, it was for Universal Accessibility Adaptation Plan, for example, in Villaverde de la Sierra, in the south of Spain. Using a methodology you can download from the web page to evaluate the accessibility and the adaptation of the Greenwich and the chain of the accessibility, not only the infrastructure, but all the service providers around. And also, these are some ideas of what you can, how you can enjoy this Greenwich in family, all the people together. And one related with visually impaired people, one of the more recent awarded has been the in Girona Greenwich, also in Catalonia, in Spain, for an adaptation to some section of the Greenwich for visual impaired people, with not only infrastructure, but also with a specific application. And all the panels around the road prepare to receive these people in an adapted way. And the idea is that they can go in an autonomous way, but also within this family, and also connected with the public transport, so information on the application. And its project, as Deborah explained also before, has been developed working with disabled people, not for people with disability, but working with these people with this impaired disability. And this is the images of the previous European Greenwich Award that was held in Latvia in 2019. This year in September, we will have a new European Greenwich Award, and this time that will be in Valencia in Spain in September. And you are invited to, if you have some connection with Greenwich, you are very welcome to apply and to disseminate this information. And these are very, very good to know other projects related with accessibility, and we can continue working and cooperating together and to enhance and to reinforce the added value of the museums around Greenwich and to propose a better and wider experience for people with some kind of disability. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mercedes. I definitely see a lot of potentials and synergies here. Accessibility first in place, UNESCO sites as another keyword, technologies, so augmented reality, perhaps combined with the one that we are using and applying to our project. So I think that the idea of finding ways of cooperation is definitely something that we need to put in place, because after the EUCO funding, this is something that we need to, let's say, move forward with our own resources, and perhaps cooperation can be one key of success. So I don't know if there is anyone from MAPE project. If so, yes, okay, Francesco, thank you. The floor is yours. I just have to say that we have a few minutes, but okay, the floor is yours.
No, I'll be very brief. So first of all, Marika, thank you for inviting me. I do really believe that we should cooperate more and build synergies. Just a foreword about who we are. I'm here on behalf of the coordinator of the project MAPE, which is the Associazione alle Terre di Savoia. We are in Italy, in Piedmont. It's a big region in the north west of Piedmont. And we have many European projects going on, and MAPE is one of those. And I just wanted to explain you why we chose the name MAPE and what is about. You have to know that Piedmont in Italy is one of the 20 Italian regions. It's very well known for, of course, wine and cheese and many gastronomy products, but also for medicinal and aromatic plants. Actually, it is it accounts for the 30% of the whole national GDP in that sector. So we have developed quite an expertise in that field, and we have tried to translate it into many projects from the scientific point of view to the artistic point of view, and with MAPE from in the touristic domain. MAPE is an acronym. It's borrowed from Latin, and it sort of resembles, at least for an Italian person, as maps. And indeed, maps is what we have created. The acronym actually stands for Medicinal and Aromatic Plants Pathways Across Europe. To be very brief, we are 6 countries and 8 partners. We have created 12 different itineraries, which are more or less tourist packages, 2 for each countries, by which you can explore the concept of tourism, starting from the concept of medicinal and aromatic plants. That works very well, in my opinion, because traveling and the trip is something that really works with the atmosphere and the different ways, almost endless ways, in which medicinal and herbs can be translated into. For instance, they are not just fields, but you can find them in the perfumes, essences, food, gastronomy, but also, of course, relates to nature, so outdoors activities and so on. And just a quick overview about what we did for the tourists to exploit these itineraries. Well, we have a web portal, so you can check it out. It's www.mappae.eu, where you can see all the itineraries. And also, we have an app for smartphone that works both for iOS and Android, by which when you are in the place, you can visit all the destinations, and you can have some more contents, because we have also in 2 experimental places, which are 2 museums dedicated to the herbs, put some beacons. The beacons are the little proximity sensors that notify you when you're in the place and gives you an sort of a guided tour in English for all the tourists. Just 2 or 3 minutes to let you see, because I don't want to bore you with too many words, but I can let you see the videos. I just asked Marika, I have a whole video with all the countries, which is about 6 minutes, or you prefer a shorter one? Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I just share my screen, and here you will see the destinations. Wait, it says share the screen. Ooh.
It's the red button at the bottom of the window.
Yes,
can you see it?
Yeah, I clicked on it, but it says that I have to habilitate.
Can you perhaps try?
Yes, I'm just making Francesco co-host, so he can share maybe.
Okay, maybe now it works. Great. I think. Do you see my screen? I guess. Okay, so you have the video here, and these are the destination, more than 150 destination in the different countries, but the video will speak for itself. And that was it. Gosh, if I want to travel.
And exactly, I think that all of us started to dream of traveling and to be in that places.
We couldn't even record those videos because we were already in lockdown. So.
Yeah. So we hope that we will be starting soon to travel once again and to have this kind of experiences, multisensorial and whatever. But the only very important thing is to start all over again, right?
So I thank you all. I'll just add that we are going to have the final event as well next Friday in the morning. So if you want to connect, we will speak a little bit about MAPE. We'll have a discussion about tourism and travel nowadays. So it will be, I hope, very interesting, not just speaking about what we did, but about what the world think of tourism.
Yeah,
Thank
definitely.
you.
I will be participating for sure. And thanks for being together with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So I think that we are pretty much closing, right, Anna?
Yes, confirmed.
Okay. So thank you very much to all the attendees for your contributions, for listening to us, and of course to all the partners for making this happen. I just wanted to thank my team, in particular, Giuseppe, Anastasia, Carolina, Emma, and all the other guys behind the scenes. They worked so hard during these 24 months. We really had challenges time with the COVID-19 situation. We had a lot of, let's say, tricky problems along the way, but we made it. The most important thing I believe is that we made it in having our travelers live this experience, because at the end of the day, this was our main goal, to bring them out of their homes and having a taste of what the normality was before the pandemic. So thank you very much to all. I think that there are a lot of synergies and interaction with other co-funded projects. In MAPE, for instance, I see intersection in the multisensorial experience, in having with the other project, the Greenways, intersection with accessibility in green destination and with UNESCO sites in particular. So this is not the end, as Alan Bella, our project officer, was mentioning. This is just the beginning. It's up to us, of course, to make it longer, to find ways of exploiting the first co-financing. But I think if we are good enough, we will make it. Thank you very much, and a big round of applause to everybody. Ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Grazie,
Thank
ciao,
you.
bye.
We didn't ask for GP.
Bye, cheers.
Thank you. Bye. Ciao.
Bye. Thank you all.
Ciao, Deborah.
Bye,
Ciao, ciao.
Deborah. Thank you all.
Bye, Deborah.
Bye.